Alright, today we are at the Holocaust Museum. We just went through security, so we're getting ready to see the exhibits. Here are 10 facts about the artifacts located in the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C. Shoes. One of the most poignant exhibits in the museum is a pile of shoes that belong to Holocaust victims. It serves as a haunting symbol of the massive scale of the genocide. Suitcases. The museum displays suitcases confiscated from deportees who were sent to concentration camps. These personal belongings represent the loss of identity and dignity experienced by the victims. Concentration camp uniforms. Visitors can see original uniforms worn by prisoners in concentration camps. These uniforms are a tangible reminder of the dehumanization conditions endured by those interned in the camps. Star of David badges. The museum exhibits yellow Star of David badges that Jewish individuals were forced to wear to identify themselves as targets of persecution under Nazi rule. False identification papers. The museum displays forged identification papers that allowed some Jews to conceal their true identities and potentially escape detection during the Holocaust. Letters and diaries. Many personal letters and diaries written by Holocaust victims and survivors are housed in the museum's archives. These documents provide deeply personal accounts of their experiences. Photographs. The museum's collection includes a vast number of photographs from the Holocaust era. These images capture various aspects of Jewish life, persecution, liberation, and the aftermath of the genocide. Concentration camp barrack. The museum reconstructed a barrack from Auschwitz to provide visitors with a glimpse of the living conditions endured by prisoners in the camp. Zyklon B canister. On display is an original canister of Zyklon B, the poisonous gas used in gas chambers during the Holocaust. It stands as a chilling reminder of the systematic mass murder that took place. Audio and video testimonies. The museum holds an extensive collection of audio and video testimonies from Holocaust survivors. These first-hand accounts ensure their stories and the lessons learned are passed on to future generations. Now we will be entering the children's exhibit called Daniel's Story, Remember the Children. Daniel's story, conceived as an integral part of the museum's educational mission, serves as a way to engage children and younger audience in learning about the Holocaust. The exhibit was designed to convey the experiences of children during this dark period of history through a compelling narrative. Daniel, the central character of the exhibit, is a fictional Jewish boy whose life provides a lens through which visitors can better understand a range of experiences endured by children during the Holocaust. His story helps to humanize these historical events and makes them more relatable to younger audiences. The exhibit takes visitors through various stages of Daniel's life, beginning with his happy childhood in Frankfurt, Germany, before the rise of the Nazi regime. It then explores the impact of anti-Semitic policies, culminating in Daniel and his family being forced to wear the Yellow Star of David. The narrative continues as Daniel and his family are eventually deported to the Terezin ghetto in Czechoslovakia. Visitors to the exhibit can view the reconstructed barracks, which depict stark conditions endured by Jews during this time. It highlights the daily struggles, lack of privacy, and the limited access to amenities. From Terezin, the exhibit chronicles Daniel's journey to Auschwitz, the notorious extermination camp. One portion of the exhibit allows visitors to walk through a replica of a train car similar to the ones used to transport Jews to the concentration camps. This immersive experience helps to create a sense of the daunting and claustrophobic conditions faced by the prisoners. The exhibit closes with the liberation of Auschwitz and the eventual rebuilding of Daniel's life. It highlights the importance of resilience, hope, and the impact that individuals can have on shaping the future. The story of Daniel thus aims to inspire visitors, particularly children, to recognize the value of tolerance, empathy, and the fight against hatred and prejudice. Daniel's story, with its powerful narrative and interactive elements, has been successful in engaging young visitors and educating them about the Holocaust. Dear Diary, I do great things with my family. I help my mother and Erica make cookies and cakes. I get to lick the bowl. Erica puts her name on her cookies. What a mess. Mother and I just laugh and laugh. Daniel. Dear Diary, on Friday evenings, evening Shabbat, we have the best meal of the week. My mother and Erica light the Sabbath candles. My father says the blessing over the wine, and I get to drink some. Dear Diary, last night I heard the sounds of breaking glass. Every synagogue, home, and store were smashed. They even wrecked the doctor's office. Erica has to carry this card wherever she goes. Dear Diary, everyone must carry identity cards that are like passports. Our ID cards have a big J on them because we're Jewish. They've even changed our names. Erica and my mother must add Sarah to theirs. My father and I must add Israel. I've never had a middle name, and I don't want one now. Dear Diary, they ruined our store. Nothing is safe for us anymore. Everything is gone. My school, our home, our store, our happy life. What will happen to us? Dear Diary, stores owned by non-Jewish families are open, but we can't shop in them. We can only buy at stores for Jews, and only at certain times. My mother must use special coupons to buy our food, but there is nothing good to buy. Dear Diary, a new law says we must sew a yellow star on our clothes to show who we are. I don't want to wear it. Orders for the yellow star. Cut the star the size of your hand, color it yellow, outline it in black. Write Jew in black letters, sew it tightly to your clothes on the left side. Jews are forbidden to appear in public without the yellow star. Dear Diary, my mother says we must hurry with our suitcases. We are being sent to a ghetto far away. I wonder what a ghetto is. My father says thousands of Jews are being sent away. Erica is crying. Will we ever see our home again? Daniel and his family were sent far away to a ghetto. Notice how different it was from Daniel's town. There were no schools and no synagogues. There were fences around the whole ghetto. Dear Diary, awful things have happened since I last wrote. We're in a ghetto. It's a terrible place with fences all around. We can't get out. I don't want to be locked inside a fence like an animal. I want to smell fresh air and run as far as I can. Dear Diary, I wait for letters from friends. They are bits of hope from the world outside the ghetto. I read them over and over. I even share them with Erica. This is where Daniel and his family live. See how different it was from his home in Germany? Many families lived in this building. Read a postcard Daniel got in the mail. Look for Daniel and Erica's secret hiding place. Can you find where Daniel kept his father's medal?
I found the secret hiding spot.
Dear Daniel, we can't stop thinking of you. It's possible that we will also have to leave our home. We expect this any day. Your aunt and cousin send their love. Your uncle. Dear uncle, I hope you are well. Father, mother, and Erica send their love. Please send us a food package if you can. Your nephew Daniel. Dear Diary, this is our secret hiding place. We hide a radio in here. It's very dangerous, but it's the only way to get news of our war from outside the ghetto. Can you imagine my father crawling in to listen? Dear Diary, it's so crowded here with my family. It's our kitchen, our bedroom, and bathroom all in one. A pot of water with one turnip is cooking on the stove. Turnips, it's all we get. They stink. Okay, so I'm at the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., USA, and I'm standing in the middle of a replica of Daniel's room. So in the midst of Daniel's story, we're reading his diary. This is the typical room that he and his family would stay in before being carted away to the concentration camps. And as you can hear, they created this ambiance that it was uncomfortable, it was crowded, the food wasn't very good, and he had to work all day without support or pay, and even the children worked. This place is awful, but my mother makes the best of it. She works in a great bakery and brings extra bread. She tries to make this room feel like home, even so we all hate it. Dear Diary, we are always hungry. Even the bread here tastes like cardboard. The rules change. We never know if we'll have enough food to keep us alive. Most of the time, our family can only have about one loaf of bread a week. Dear Diary, my worst fear has come true. They are taking us away. August 15th, 1944. Dear Diary, I see men, women, children, and babies being forced into trains. Now I know the end of the ride is a concentration camp. Daniel and his family were sent to a concentration camp. They were jammed into a crowded train. The things I saw beggar description. The visual evidence and the verbal testimony of starvation, cruelty, and bestiality were overpowering. I made the visit deliberately in order to be in a position to give first-hand evidence of these things if ever in the future there develops a tendency to charge these allegations merely to propaganda. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, April 15, 1945. Before the Holocaust, in 1933, more than 9 million Jews lived in continental Europe. Within less than a decade, most of the countries in which they lived would be invaded, occupied, or annexed by Nazi Germany. Within a dozen years, 2 out of 3 European Jews would be dead, and European Jewish life changed forever. Jews had lived in Europe for almost 2,000 years. Depending on where they lived and when, they experienced persecution and isolation, or prosperity and social acceptance. By the 19th century, Jewish life embraced both the assimilated Jews of Western Europe and the Orthodox, relatively segregated Jews of Eastern Europe. There, Yiddish was the dominant language of Jews, and traditional religious observance the norm. By the 1880s, Jewish life was in ferment throughout Europe. Though Western Jews had gained equal rights under the law, religious anti-Semitism reappeared with political and racial overtones. In Eastern Europe, Jews faced poverty, anti-Semitism, and periodically outbreaks of mass violence known as pogroms. Yet Jewish traditions and cultures remained full of vitality, and Jewish religious life was rich and fervently observed. The Nuremberg Race Laws. On September 15, 1935, at an annual Nazi Party rally in Nuremberg, the German parliament enacted 2 laws that became the centerpiece of Nazi and anti-Jewish legislation. Under the Reich citizenship law, only persons of German or kindred blood could claim the new status of Reich citizenship. German Jews remained merely subjects of the state. The law for the protection of German blood and honor deemed marriage and sexual relations between Jews and citizens of Germany or kindred blood as crimes of racial defilement. It also forbade Jews to employ female German house servants under the age of 45. For the first time in history, Jews were subject to persecution, not for their religious identity or practices, but solely for their Jewish birth. All persons who were born Jewish were defined as Jews, even if their parents had converted to Christianity. The Nuremberg laws reversed emancipation, a process begun over a century before, by which German Jews had achieved the full rights of citizenship in the land of their birth. The Nazis targeted people with disabilities for systematic mass murder. The regime considered them to be a genetic threat and an economic burden. Resources the Nazis believed were better allocated to healthy Germans. In spring 1939, they planned a secret operation to kill children with disabilities. That fall, Hitler authorized Operation T4, which extended the program to adults. Victims of the program were patients living in care facilities in Germany and German annexed lands. They had conditions such as schizophrenia, epilepsy, and intellectual and physical disabilities. Cooperation from doctors, nurses, and hospital directors was critical to the program. Medical personnel took part in nearly all aspects of it. Their roles ranged from planning and victim selection to outright murder. Staff killed patients by gassing, lethal overdose, or starvation. The Nazis referred to the deaths as euthanasia or mercy killing. In 1941, public discovery of the killings led to protests by a number of church leaders, judges, and citizens. Hitler issued a halt to the adult program in late August. The killings secretly resumed in 1942 and continued until the war ended in 1945. An estimated 250,000 people died in a euthanasia program. The photographs in this tower were taken between the years 1890 and 1941 in Eschbach, a small town near Vilna, in what is now Lithuania. Eichach, the town's Yiddish name, was a shtetl, one of many Jewish communities in Eastern Europe. In 1939, its Jewish population of 3,500 constituted a majority in the town, which was known as Eichach in Polish. The cemetery tombstones bore witness to the fact that Jews had lived in Eichach for almost 900 years. The Jewish community had a rich religious culture and an energetic secular life, famed for its Talmudic academy. It also fostered a wide range of political and cultural organizations in which young people were especially active. Most of these photographs were taken by Yitzhak Yuri Katz, his wife, Alta Katz, their assistants, Ben Zion Schreider, and Raphael Lebowitz, all photographers in Eichach. The final solution. The Nazis' program to physically destroy the Jews of Europe evolved over time. Before 1940, Nazi policy focused on forced Jewish immigration from Germany, but this failed to provide a solution to the Jewish question, a Nazi catchword used to justify the expulsion of Jews, since few countries were willing to offer Jews a haven. As German troops overran countries in the east and west, more Jews fell under Nazi control. The possibility of havens within Europe vanished. After considering alternative paths for dealing with the Jews, Hitler and the Nazi leadership turned to a policy of genocide, the final solution. The exact date of the decision, which originated with Hitler, may never be known. Mass shooting of Jews began in the newly conquered areas of the Soviet Union in June 1941. Soon after the start of the German invasion, plans to send SS and police killing squads to these areas had been finalized in the spring before the invasion. The first methodical gassing of Jews began on December 8, 1941, at a death camp in Chelmno, a town in Poland. Preparations for these gassings had been underway for months. Deportations. The Nazi deportations of Jews and Roma, gypsies, took three main forms: transports from towns and cities to internment camps or ghettos, from smaller ghettos to larger ones, and beginning in 1942, from camps and ghettos to 6 killing centers, all in Poland: Auschwitz-Birkenau, Mandajek, Chelmno, Treblinka, Belzec, and Sobibor. Freight trains were the primary means of transportation. The Nazis camouflaged their intentions, referring to deportations as resettlement in the East, and telling the victims that they were being transferred to labor camps, where they would be treated well. Most Jews did not suspect the existence of the death camps and believed what the Nazis told them. Even as late as 1944, many Hungarian Jews had never heard of Auschwitz. During the summer of 1942, about 250,000 Warsaw Jews were transported in freight cars to Treblinka, where they were killed with carbon monoxide gas. Between May 15th and July 9, 1944, more than 437,000 Jews from Hungarian ghettos and camps were deported to Auschwitz-Birkenau in 147 trains. Most of them were gassed at Birkenau soon after their arrival. On the train, we suffered from thirst and cold at every stop. We clamored for water or even a handful of snow, but we were rarely heard, and the soldiers of the escort drove off anybody who tried to approach the convoy. 2 young mothers, nursing their children, groaned night and day begging for water. The hours of darkness were nightmares without end. Next to me, crushed against me for the whole journey, there had been a woman. We had known each other for many years, and the misfortune had struck us together, but we had known little of each other. Now, in the hour of decision, we said to each other things that we never said among the living. Everyone said farewell to life through his neighbor. Not even Lucifer could possibly have created a hell worse than this. Can you picture a grate piled high with 3,000 corpses of people who had been alive only a short time before? As you look at their faces, it seems as if at any moment these bodies might awaken from their deep sleep. But at a given signal, a giant torch is lit, and it burns with a huge flame. Yanko Wiernik, a Jewish survivor of the Treblinka killing center. The end of the shtetl. The town of Eichach Located in what is now Lithuania, was like many Jewish communities in Eastern Europe. Most of the photographs in this tower were made by 4 local photographers between the year 1890 and 1941. The final solution began in Eichach soon after German troops arrived there on June 23, 1941. A Jewish council was formed. The Jews' valuables were collected and confiscated. Jewish men and women were abused and humiliated. On September 21st, the eve of the Jewish New Year, an SS mobile killing squad entered the town, accompanied by Lithuanian volunteers. 4,000 Jews from Eichach and its environs were herded into 3 synagogues and imprisoned there. 3 days later, on September 24th, the Jews were taken from the synagogues to a horse market on the outskirts of town. The next day, the men were led into groups of 250 from the marketplace to the old Jewish cemetery. There, the SS men ordered them to undress and stand on the edge of open pits where they were shot by Lithuanian guards. On September 26, the women and children were shot near the Christian cemetery. 2 of the Eichach photographers, Alta Katz and Ben Zion Schrader, were among the victims. In the Jewish calendar, the dates of the massacre were Tishrei 4 and 5, the year 5702. 900 years of Jewish life and culture in Eichach came to an end in 2 days. Today, no Jews live in Eichach. Liberation and the aftermath. After the Allied and Soviet armies liberated the camps, the liberators faced a daunting problem. Thousands of prisoners suffering from starvation, disease, and the effects of brutal SS treatment continued to die at a horrifying rate. The abysmal sanitary conditions in the camps intensified the problem. Allied troops and medical personnel tried to save as many surviving inmates as possible. Their first attempts to nourish the survivors were often disastrous. Many starving prisoners ate more food that their damaged bodies could digest and died as a result. The liberators adjusted by rationing food to prevent overeating. In order to halt the spread of disease, prisoners were bathed and dusted with insecticide, some barracks were burned down, and the dead were buried in mass graves. The death rates remained high. 50% of the prisoners alive in Auschwitz at liberation died within a few days. In Bergen-Belsen, hundreds of prisoners died every day for 3 weeks. During the first month after liberation, 13,000 of the camp's approximately 50,000 surviving prisoners died.